Thank you for purchasing our Hot 2.0 domestic hot water heating system. By carefully viewing and following the instructions on this video, you will be well on your way to safely and efficiently heating the water in your home with solar energy. While viewing this instructional video, make sure to have your written manual handy to jot down notes and to flag specific reference pages and checklists that you will refer to throughout the installation. First, let's make sure your package was shipped with each of the proper components. Your Hot 2.0 system should contain these 5 major components: the solar collectors, the accessory box containing 3 separate bags, the plumbing kit, roof mounting kit, and solar controller kit. Other major components include tubing, circulation module, and drainback tank. Here's a look at the double tank setup. This setup is used with gas water heaters or with electric water heaters requiring additional hot water capacity. To help you visualize the end result, here's what an actual final installation looks like. There are several tools you will need to complete the installation process. Refer to your manual for a complete listing. Planning your installation locations is one of the most important steps in making sure your Hot 2.0 system performs properly. Careful planning also helps make sure your installation process goes as smoothly as possible. Here are some key points to keep in mind while planning your system. For more in-depth instruction on planning, please see your written instruction manual. It is important you choose the best roof location to install your solar collector. If you are installing more than 2 collectors, the roof location must be large enough for the total number of solar collectors you plan to install. Be sure to refer to the planning section of your written manual to lay out your solar collector location. The standard Hot 2.0 kit comes with 2 solar collectors. Each collector measures approximately 2 feet by 12 feet. With 2 collectors, your roof size should be able to fit a 6-foot by 14-foot area for the solar collectors and associated fittings. Additional panels require more roof space. Measure your planned roof site to make sure your collectors will fit. When measuring, keep in mind that the collectors may be oriented in any direction, except perfectly vertical or perfectly horizontal to the roof line. As long as there is a minimum tilt of 1/4 inch per foot for drainage, the collectors will work properly. The optimal roof is south-facing, followed by west, east, and then north, with a minimum pitch or angle of 10 degrees. This amount of slope is necessary for optimal solar exposure and proper system drainage. If you have a flat roof or a very steep roof, a roof rack may provide a way to adjust the mounting angle. Roof penetrations should be located over an attic or crawl space that is not blocked by a beam, chimney, or other obstruction. Your attic or crawl space will need to allow the tubing run to slope 1/4 inch for every foot or 1 inch every 4 feet of distance traveled as the tubing returns to the drainback tank. The circulation module should be close enough to the water heater or storage tank to connect using the 3-foot flexible hoses in your kit. This module may be set on the floor or mounted on a wall stud. The drainback tank must be mounted to a wall stud or 2 stringers between studs. The bottom of the drainback tank must be at least 3 feet from the top of the circulation module. The tank should be at least 6 inches from the ceiling, allowing for connection, filling, and occasional maintenance. The solar controller unit should be positioned near an existing wall outlet. An extension cord can be used if needed. If you are installing a solar storage tank, double tank option, choose a location adjacent to the existing water heater and, if necessary, install a stand that will bring the storage tank to about the same height as the water heater. Make sure to check your local building codes first. It is important that tubing connections are made correctly to ensure a proper seal. Inspect the tubing that there are no scars or abrasions that will lead to leaks, and ensure that you have a straight cut. If not, make a straight cut. Notice the line on the connector. This is how far you will need to push the tube to ensure a proper insertion. If you'd prefer, you can mark the tubing to make certain the tube is fully inserted. To remove the connector, depress the inner ring with your fingertip and pull the tubing out. Failure to observe safe practices on a roof or other elevated structure may result in falling, which can cause serious injury or even death. Solar collector installation on rooftops can be hazardous. Unless you are familiar with working on roofs and have the proper ladders and safety equipment for roof work, you should consider hiring a professional with the necessary qualifications to do the solar collector installation. FAFCO strongly recommends that 2 people perform the solar collector installation. We will now guide you through laying out your solar collector and roof jack positions, then through installing your solar collectors and roof jacks based on the layout. The following procedure is for composition asphalt roofs. If you do not have a composition asphalt roof, refer to the section titled Other Roof Types in your written manual before proceeding. You may need additional tools and equipment. At this time, you will want to refer to the solar collector installation parts list in your manual to ensure that you have the proper parts and tools ready. Survey the roof area from the ground first. After choosing a good location, based on the information provided in the planning section, place your ladder in a sturdy location and carefully carry the solar collectors onto the roof, paying special attention not to drag the solar collectors over any sharp or abrasive objects that may damage the panels. Unroll the solar collectors and place them on the roof. When first unrolled, the collectors have a memory that will tend to make them curl up again. To relax the collectors, lay them over the ridge of your roof. On windy days, be careful during this step. Hold the collectors down if necessary. Once the solar collectors have relaxed, remove the protective end caps and connect the collector headers using the 3/4-inch unions. Then set them at the appropriate place on the roof. This initial position does not work and will need to be readjusted. As you can see, there is not enough room to mount the roof jack or install the tubing at the top or at the bottom. To adjust for this situation, these installers have repositioned the collectors to tilt in the opposite direction, allowing ample room for the lower and upper jacks. Remember, you will need to maintain at least a 1/4 inch per foot tilt on tubing and solar panel headers to aid in drainage. Before attaching the solar panels, mark the 4 corners of the collector position to ensure that your panels have not shifted when mounting the solar collector straps. Install the 2 end caps to the open ends of the headers, opposite the roof jacks. Beginning with the bottom left or right panel, place a dab of roof sealant about the size of a quarter, 4 to 6 inches from the header, and 1 to 2 inches from the panel. Drive the lag screw through the strap and into the roof. Repeat this process at the top of the same header, then again in the middle, and cover each screw head with sealant. Repeat this process for the opposite end of the panel. Then use the tape measure to determine the middle strap position, and mark the tape. Then install the middle strap, being careful not to step on the solar collectors. Cut off the excess roof strap. This step will prepare your roof jack locations for running tubing through your roof to the solar collectors. There are several tools you will need to complete the installation process. Refer to your manual for a complete listing. Set the roof jack in place a minimum of 6 inches from the end of the header to the hole in the roof jack. Mark and then drill a 1 1/4 inch roof penetration hole directly through the roof and into the attic or crawl space. If you hit a roof truss, adjust your location left or right by 1 to 2 inches and drill another hole. The roof jack will be large enough to cover the additional hole. Notch the roofing material so the roof jack can slide into place. Place the roof jack in position over the 1 1/4 inch hole to see how far you will have to slide the roof jack under your roof tile. Determine how much tile you will have to loosen to fit the top of the roof jack underneath, then set the roof jack aside. Use a metal putty knife to pry up roofing material far enough to slide the roof jack in place. Slide the roof jack into position. There may be roofing nails or staples blocking the way. Trim the roof jack to avoid the nails or remove the nails or staples. Once in position, the top half of the roof jack should be under the loosened roofing material. The bottom half of the roof jack should be on top of your roof tile, and the roof jack hole should fit into the roof penetration. Remove the roof jack. At the upper roof jack location, put the roof sensor wire through the hole, leaving enough lead to clear the bottom of the roof jack. Place the roof jack back into position over the roof sensor to check for fit. Make sure the sensor is placed out of any potential shadows. Remove the roof jack. The leads of the sensor will be attached later. Apply sealant to the roofing material that will be covered by the roof jack. Do not leave gaps in the sealant around the roof sensor wire and hole. Make sure to apply enough sealant to firmly hold the roof jack in place. With the roof sensor in place, slide the roof jack under the loosened roofing material and into position and press down firmly on the roof jack. Now, drive nails into the hardware. Cover the exposed hardware with roof sealant, and repeat these steps for the lower roof jack. If your roof is not composition asphalt, please see your written manual for further instructions. Follow these instructions carefully. Good planning and careful measurements make your installation process much easier and much safer. Working with hot water heaters can be dangerous. If working with an electric water heater, make sure power is shut off prior to removing access covers or draining. There is a serious risk of electrical shock and heater elements will be damaged if the heater is operated when empty. If you are working with a gas water heater, turn off the gas prior to draining. Be advised that hot water can scald. Discharge hot water in a safe location. Consult the instruction manual for additional information on hazards. Here's a look at the double tank setup. Your locations may be different. You should have an electric water heater to use as a storage tank for your Hot 2.0 installation. Based on the planning section, you should know where you want to place your storage tank. Do not connect electricity to your solar storage tank. Do not make any plumbing changes yet. Before beginning your installation process, you will need to shut off your water heater. This may be accomplished in one of two ways. By shutting off the circuit breaker for the water heater, making sure you know which is the correct breaker. By shutting off the gas inlet valve near your water heater. It is always a good idea to verify that the voltage is turned off before opening any electrical appliance. Open the junction box on the top of your water heater. Use a voltmeter or voltage checker suitable for 240 volts AC and place the leads across the incoming connections. If there is still voltage at the connections, switch each breaker in the breaker box off until you have identified the correct one. Make sure the spare tank water heater is not plugged in. Shut the water heater cold water inlet valve. This valve is usually a lever-operated valve near the top right-hand side of the water heater. Shut off the water to the home at the main water shutoff. Using a garden hose, make sure the discharge of the drain hose is placed in a safe position before draining the water heater. Connect a drain hose to the drain bib on the water heater. Slowly open the drain bib valve to drain the water heater. After the drain bib is open and the flow has begun, open the water heater relief valve to assist draining. Monitor the drain hose. When water stops flowing, shut the drain bib and disconnect the drain hose. Assemble the stand per manufacturer's instructions. The stands may vary. Strapping the tank is not required in all regions. Consult your local building code. Measure the tank to locate appropriate strap heights. The straps need to be placed within the top third and the bottom third of the tank height. Also, avoid blocking the access panels on the water heater. Find the studs to attach the strap to and mark the wall. Attach the restraint straps to the wall. Place the storage tank on the stand and affix the straps around the storage tank. Carefully unscrew the drain bib from the storage tank. Wrap the coaxial tank adapter threads with at least 4 wraps of Teflon tape where inserted in the water heater. Coat the coaxial tank adapter threads with the provided pipe thread compound. This double seal helps prevent leakage from the coaxial connector. Insert the coaxial adapter tube into the water heater, then screw the coaxial connector into the drain hole until hand tight, being sure not to cross-thread it. In this situation, the threads inside the water heater are too deep and will prevent us from connecting the components to the coaxial adapter and will require modification. Should you run into this situation, here are the steps you will need to complete the process. First, remove the coaxial tank adapter from the heater and reapply the pipe thread compound to the threads. Then attach the 3/4 inch coupler fitting to the threads and hand tighten. Apply at least 4 wraps of Teflon tape to each end of the 3/4 inch nipple. Then apply pipe thread compound to one end. Insert the 3/4 inch nipple into the water heater and hand tighten. Apply pipe thread compound to the exposed end of the 3/4 inch nipple and insert the tube into the water heater and hand tighten, being careful not to cross-thread. With a pair of channel locks on the coupler, finish tightening the coaxial tank adapter. Wrap the 3/4 inch drain threads of the coaxial tank adapter with Teflon tape and apply the pipe thread compound. Screw on the new hose bib onto the coaxial tank adapter on the opposite side relative to the circulation module placement. Be careful not to over-tighten to avoid breaking or stripping the adapter. Screw the 3/4 inch flexible hose to the supply side of the coaxial tank adapter, taking care not to over-tighten this connection. Teflon tape is not required. Screw the 1/2 inch flexible hose to the return side of the coaxial tank adapter. Again, do not over-tighten and do not use Teflon tape. When all connections are complete, the coaxial tank adapter should look like this. Locate a wall stud near the desired drainback tank mounting position. If a wall stud is not conveniently located, use 2 stringers fixed between 2 wall studs. Hold the drainback tank in place near the mounting site so that the top of the tank is a minimum of 6 inches from the ceiling. Use a pencil to mark the desired bottom mounting bolt location through the mounting hole, then the top. Double-check that your mounting marks are centered on a wall stud and adjust the marks if necessary. Hold the drainback tank in place over the marks and mark the location where the tubing will penetrate the ceiling. Then mark the second penetration in line with the sight glass tube. Drill a 1-inch hole at the ceiling penetration locations. Note that some jurisdictions have special requirements for firewall penetrations, so be sure to consult your local building code. Supporting the drainback tank to protect the connector on the bottom, install the throttle valve on the top of the drainback tank and pull up the tubing about 6 inches. Make sure the tubing is seated in the valve and push back down until the tube touches the bottom of the tank. Move the drainback tank back in the correct mounting location and put the lag screw through the washer and drive it into the wall stud, making sure not to tighten it all the way. If you miss the wall stud, repeat your measurements. Level the drainback tank and repeat the process with the top hole. Recheck that the tank is level and finish mounting the drainback tank by tightening the lag screws. Locate a wall stud near the desired circulation module mounting position and mark the 2 bolt hole locations on the wall, 6 3/4 inches vertically apart, 3 inches from where the bottom of the module will be located. Make sure the hole marks are level and drive a lag screw into each mark, making sure there is at least a 1/4 inch gap between the wall and the bolt head. Carefully set the circulation module onto the lag screws and ensure the mounting is sturdy. If necessary, adjust the lag screws for a secure fit. Place the 3/4 inch to 1/2 inch reducer fitting next to a smooth pipe to see how far to push the fitting. Then properly insert the fitting over the pipe and attach a fitting to the other pipe. Cut a piece of tubing approximately 6 inches in length and inspect that you have a clean cut with no scars that may leak. Line the bottom of the tubing with the line on the fitting as a reference and insert the tubing all the way to the line on the inlet marked from the bottom of the drainback tank. Install the drain valve to the top of the 6-inch tube. Now, insert the end of the tubing roll into the connector at the bottom of the drainback tank and ensure it is properly seated. Run the tubing down to the drain valve and measure off at the seating line and make your cut. Then insert the tubing into the drain valve, ensuring that it is seated properly. Connect the flexible hoses to the threaded pipes on the top of the circulation module. The flexible hoses only fit one way, small to small and large to large. Do not use Teflon tape or pipe thread compounds on these connectors. In this section, we will install the tubing between the 2 locations. If you are unable to run the tubing through the inside of your home, you must wrap or cover all tubing and wiring to prevent exposure to direct sunlight. There are several tools you will need to complete the installation process. Refer to your manual for a complete listing. From the heater area, run the tubing from the roll through the hole in the ceiling above the sight glass. With the installer on the roof, holding the lower roof jack down by standing on it, lubricate the tubing and the hole with water or silicone grease, and push about 1 foot of the tube end through the lower roof jack. Starting up by the roof jack, attach a tubing clip to a convenient beam. Insert the tubing and clamp down. And repeat every 3 feet, maintaining a minimum of 1/4 inch per foot slope. Back in the heater area, cut the tubing as needed to reach the circulation module, and install the escutcheon, pushing all the way to the ceiling. Install tubing to the outlet of the circulation pump, marked 2 solar collectors at closest bottom header. Run the tubing from the roll through the other hole in the ceiling. In the attic, run a direct path to the upper roof jack, lubricate, and push about 1 foot through using the same method as before. Back in the heater area, cut the tubing to reach the drainback tank. Slide the escutcheon over the tube and connect the tube to the throttle valve on the top of the drainback tank. Drill a 1/4 inch hole through the ceiling. Push the sensor wire up through the hole and run to the roof sensor lead by the upper roof jack. Now strip the jacket off the wire, exposing the two leads. Insert into the splice and clamp. Trim the stripped ends off the roof sensor lead. Insert into the splice and clamp. Then secure the wire run to the tubing with zip ties. On the roof, install the 3/4 inch to 1/2 reducer to the header. Cut off all but about 4 inches of tubing coming through the roof jack and save the cut portion. Insert a right angle fitting onto the tubing coming through the roof jack, making sure to push the tubing in all the way. Then press the right angle fitting down until it is flush with the roof jack. Cut the tubing as needed and connect the remaining tubing between the roof jack and the collector header as seen here. Wrap all exposed tubing and connector fittings with the UV tape provided in your kit. Ensure the tubing allows for drainage with no high points and proper slope. If desired, paint the roof jacks for a cleaner appearance. Repeat the process for the other roof jack as well. The installation of the system tubing is now complete. If you have questions about the plumbing connections you may need or about code requirements, call a licensed plumber. There are several tools you will need to complete the installation process. Refer to your manual for a complete listing. First, open the packages with the flexible copper hoses and remove the pipe thread to hose adapters. Note the differences between the hose and pipe threads. Remove the screws from the water heater vent and set aside. Disconnect the hoses from the water heater. Wrap the hot water outlet of the heater with Teflon tape. Apply pipe thread compound and attach the anti-scald valve and tighten. Wrap the 3/4 inch pipe threads of the hose adapter with Teflon tape and apply pipe thread compound. Screw the treated end into the mix outlet, horizontal end, of the anti-scald valve and tighten. Connect the hot water hose to the house to the adapter and tighten. And if replacing completely, connect the other end to the hot water pipe coming out of the wall. Wrap one end of a 3/4 inch nipple with Teflon tape and apply pipe thread compound. Screw the treated end into the top end of the anti-scald valve and tighten. Wrap Teflon tape to the untreated end and apply pipe thread compound. Connect the brass T to the end of the 3/4 inch nipple and tighten. Wrap the 3/4 inch pipe threads of the hose adapter with Teflon tape. Apply pipe thread compound. And connect to the horizontal end of the brass T. Wrap the 3/4 inch pipe threads of the hose adapter with Teflon tape. Apply the pipe thread compound. And connect to the top, vertical end of the brass T and tighten each adapter. Now connect the cold water inlet hose to the lower horizontal adapter, and if replacing completely, connect the other end to the cold water pipe coming out of the wall, and tighten each. Now connect a new flexible copper hose to the adapter on the top of the brass T, and another flexible copper hose to the cold water connector on the water heater. Now, reattach the vent to the water heater. Connect two flexible copper hoses to each of the connectors on the top of the spare tank and bend toward the others. Wrap the 3/4-inch pipe threads of the remaining 4 hose adapters with Teflon tape and apply pipe thread compound to each taped end. With the bypass valve in hand, connect the treated ends of the 4 adapters to each of the connections on the bypass valve and tighten. Note the orientation of the bypass valve. The black valve actuator will be closer to the storage tank, so the bypass side of the valve can connect to the water heater. If your water heater and storage tank are set up opposite of what is shown here, your bypass valve will be oriented opposite of what is shown as well. Connect the hose from the top of the brass T to the top on the bypass side of the valve. Connect the hose from the cold water inlet of the water heater to the bottom of the bypass side of the valve. Connect the hose from the hot water outlet of the solar storage tank to the bottom of the bypass valve. Connect the hose from the cold water inlet of the solar storage tank to the top of the bypass valve. And tighten all connections. There are several tools you will need to complete the installation process. Refer to your manual for a complete listing. Mount the controller to the wall using the screw provided and level. Remove the lower storage tank access plate and clear any insulation or caps covering the terminals. Insert the heater sensor between the insulation and the tank. Then, run the wire out of the tank. Strip the gray outer insulator to expose the black and red wires. Splice the heater sensor wire to the gray wire. Place the spliced portion and sensor wire back into the lower heater access. And replace the lower storage tank access plate. Remove the cover on the controller. Cut both sensor wires to length and strip the outside jacket back about 1 inch on both. Then, strip the insulation on the leads back about 1/4 inch. Connect the roof sensor wires to the terminals marked T1. Connect the storage tank sensor wires to the terminals marked T2. Then secure the wires to the controller and replace the controller cover. Plug the controller into the 120-volt AC outlet and check the temperature readings for T1 and T2. If an error reading occurs, check the sensor wiring. Make sure drainback tank fittings are tight. Remove the fill cap on the drainback tank and fill to the top of the sight glass. Replace the fill cap. Open the water shutoff valve to the house. Open the water shutoff valve of the water heater. Remove the screen from a hot water faucet in the home and turn on the faucet until all the air is expelled. This may take several minutes. Inspect all plumbing connections between the tanks for leaks. Allow the water heater to fill completely. If you are using a gas system, relight the pilot following the instructions on the heater. Or if you are using an electric heater, turn on the circuit breaker to the water heater. Make sure the controller is off, lower position. Plug in the circulation module. Switch the controller to manual using the switch on the side. You should hear the circulation module turn on. After about 5 minutes, you should hear the bubbling in the drainback tank stop, indicating that all the air has been forced out of the collectors. Make sure the water level is above the minimum level. Switch the controller switch to auto. Congratulations! You have successfully completed the installation of your Hot 2.0 domestic hot water system and well on your way to years of saving on your water heating bills.